Welcome, everyone. This is Kaila Olin. She does the Washington Huskies for Sports Illustrated, and she's going to talk to us about Salvon Ahmed. Kaila, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Thanks so much for doing this.
But you probably are too.
How do you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Salvon Ahmed.
Salvon Ahmed. The 49ers recently signed him as an undrafted free agent. Can you tell us a little bit about his background, like where he came from and how he came to be the starting running back at Washington?
Yeah, so he is from Washington. He's from Kirkland, Washington. So his house was only about a 10-minute drive from Husky Stadium. And he went to school in a 3A. I'm not sure really your guys' classifications down in California. I know they get way bigger than 4A, but 4A is the biggest we have. So was a 3A offensive MVP, actually. And so Chris Peterson really liked that OKG, somebody who wanted to be that hometown hero, who could make a statement, somebody who he could really develop. And I think he saw that in Salvon because Salvon continuously grew as a player throughout high school, even after he was recruited. And so that kind of helped him transition into this Coach Pete era, following behind Levon Coleman, Myles Gaskin, so on and so forth. A lot of great running backs, and he actually was the 9th running back out of the last 10 years in Washington who ran for over 1,000 yards a season. And so he continuously grew throughout Washington as well. And I think that's what Coach Pete saw in him. And that's kind of how he came into Washington, was just continuously growing. And that's basically the kind of guy that Coach Pete liked.
When you say continuously growing, do you mean physically or in terms of maturity and skill?
Yeah, maturity and skill, definitely. He also bulked up a little bit. He wasn't that small, but he gained that more muscle mass, especially when he was working with FSP, the Ford Sports Performance Center that we have up here that likes to develop guys and talent and stuff like that. But overall, especially, he became more of a gym rat, or not a gym rat, a film rat.
Oh.
And so kind of saw how him and Jake Browning at the time would kind of just constantly study film. And so he grew that way as well, so mentally.
Interesting. And I'm sure that would appeal to Kyle Shanahan, who's also a film rat. What does Salvon do best?
Salvon best, I would say he's picky, which can be a downfall. I would say it has been a little bit of a downfall in his career at Washington. But when he finds that hole, he's gone. And so it's almost, they say that, with patience, when you wait for it, it really comes to you. And that's what he does. He's a little bit more patient, which gives the defense time to kind of catch up to him. But if he finds that hole, he's gone, and defenders don't catch him. That's kind of how he ran for 86 yards against Oregon State, as he just found that hole and he was gone.
I see. So he's a home run hitter, and if you give him enough carries, one of those will go the distance.
Exactly. The last season, he had 4 games where he had over 100 rushing yards. One of them was 174. That's his career at Washington, and it was only on, I think, 24 carries.
Oh, okay. Okay. So when you watched him in his career, where would you say he made his biggest strides or his biggest improvements at Washington?
I would say his biggest stride and improvement, he was kind of always that he was the number 2 behind Myles Gaskin, who's now with the Miami Dolphins. And Myles Gaskin had started as a true freshman. So he was always getting that playing time. He was always the go-to guy. He was Jake Browning's right-hand man. So if there was a handoff, it was going to Gaskin. And the only time it was really going to Salvon is if Gaskin wasn't really in, or he just wasn't really having a good game. And so with Gaskin gone last season, Salvon really had the opportunity to be that number 1. He had a lot of experience on some kickoffs, but again, with having the opportunity to be the number 1 running back at Washington last year, he excelled.
I see. So at Washington, it's more an issue of getting the opportunity because there's so many quality running backs and athletes that come through.
Yeah, so with our running back room, I would say it's not as deep as, say, our wide receiver room. And so you have him, who's a little bit on the shorter side, not really as bulky as, say, Levon Coleman was in terms of muscle mass. But he had that build kind of like Myles Gaskin, small but fast. And so Coach Pete at the time usually liked to keep a little bit of both, like a halfback plus a fullback.
Got it.
on the field at once. And so he really liked to run more receivers and tight ends, more wideouts than he liked to running backs. But when he used his running backs, it was very strategically. Hence why the running back room, I would say, is not as deep.
I see. It was a bit of a committee, and they used the running backs to their strengths. That's sort of how the Niners use their running backs as well.
Exactly.
Where would you say Salvon needs to make strides in the future, or could improve in the future?
I would say he needs to get back to his old self in terms of he ran a 4.62 in the combine.
Yeah, what was that about?
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Nobody really understood what happened, and that's something that us Husky fans and reporters are kind of scratching our heads with what's going on, because he ran a 4.32 at the Husky combine the year before.
Wow.
And you watch his film, he's not 4.62 at all, which I think really put coaches off of him when it came to the draft and everything like that, because you don't want a slow running back, right? That's your job. It's to run, and it's to run fast. But I would say kind of getting back to his speed and his mentality, I think he can also improve again. Maybe not being so picky, because in the NFL, you're really not given as much time to really find that hole. You know, you kind of got to push through.
Right.
But again, that's not really his size. I mean, 5'11" is not a bad size at all, but just struggles a little bit and stutter steps. Maybe getting rid of that stutter step in the backfield.
Got it. Well, he's an undrafted free agent, so the odds that he'll become a successful running back in the NFL are low. That being said, he lands on the 49ers. His coach is Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle and his father, Mike, pretty much showed the rest of the league that you can get really good running backs after the draft. So given that he's in pretty much probably the best situation he could be in, what do you think the chances are that Salvon could become a successful running back in the NFL?
I think the 49ers are a really good fit for him. Again, like you said, in terms of developing those running backs who aren't really drafted, he has the potential. I mean, people can take what they want from, you know, the big boards and Kipper's best left, right? He was in the best top 10 for, I would say, the last 4 rounds. And so he has the potential. He has the film to do so. He has to want to do so. And he has to really fight for that position. He has always fought for it in terms of kind of beating those upperclassmen that were already in there but never really had much playing time. And so learning from the running back room that the 49ers have right now, and then really putting that to good use, using those drills that Kyle Shanahan really likes. I think we saw in the Super Bowl, you know, running is a big strong suit for the 49ers as well. And so if he can do that, he can be successful, especially with the 49ers. He has a 3-year deal with you guys. And so it's basically saying, we want to give you this opportunity. You just now need to earn it and prove to us why you deserve to be here for 3 years and then some.
And he certainly has an opportunity. I mean, the 49ers just traded Matt Breida to the Dolphins. Breida was an undrafted free agent. And I'm not as familiar with Salvon as you are, but they seem like they might be similar. And then the starter is Tevin Coleman, who will be a free agent in 2021. He's kind of hasn't really lived up to his contract. It's possible Salvon could be in the rotation as early as next season, especially if he's the film junkie that you say he is, because that certainly will endear him to Kyle Shanahan.
He needs to stay healthy is kind of what it comes down to. He only missed 1 game last season because of an injury. I would say that injury kind of continued to bother him a little bit throughout the season, but he's had enough rest time. So as long as he's really doing those workouts and putting in that time in the film room and in the gym, he should be just fine.
Do you remember what that injury was?
It was his shoulder, if I remember.
Okay, fair enough. Well, at least it's not an ankle or a knee.
It was, you kind of really noticed it. He would then, instead of carrying the ball on the right side, he'd kind of transition it to the left.
Interesting.
So.
Okay. Well, I didn't know much about Salvon until I talked to you. You really introduced me and educated me. This was terrific. Thank you so much for taking some time.
No, of course. Thanks for inviting me. I will always talk Husky football.
All right. We'll talk. Well, the Niners draft a lot of Huskies, so maybe we'll have to talk about Dante Pettis sometime.
Definitely.
All right. Next time. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.